Listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to Scary Time, the podcast that helps you find new, emerging, and undiscovered scary and paranormal podcasts. I'm Greg, the host and curator of Scary Time. Today's episode is from Susto. Susto is a spooky podcast centered around the folklore of Latinx and Hispanic cultures. If you like today's episode, make sure to check out the episode description for links to subscribe. All right, let's get this show started.
Begin.
Hey, Ghoul friends, it's me, Adrian, or Ayden. Either way, I am still your host, and you are still listening to Susto, the podcast of Ookie Spooky Scary Stories, the award-winning podcast of spooky scary stories. Welcome back. Oh my god. Oh, and if this is your first time, thank you for joining us. In case you didn't know, I won an award. And if you didn't know, but you've been listening, what a whirlwind of emotions, what a roller coaster, what a week, what a past 2 weeks it's been. So if you haven't seen on the social medias, that's at Susto Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Susto was selected as one of 10 winners of the inaugural Gotham Variety Audio Honors. If you don't know, the Gotham, it's a independent film organization. They recognize filmmakers and films and independent media. Variety magazine, I don't know what to tell you about that. It's Variety magazine, and the awards in the event were presented by Wondery, which is an amazing podcast network. Susto was selected as one of 10 shows to receive this award. I feel like I've gone through all the emotions. I've cried, I've laughed, I've cried and laughed. It's been such a validating feeling to receive this recognition. I'm so honored, especially to have been sitting next to the other honorees, the other award winners. They're such talented people. I had the opportunity to go to New York this last weekend to receive the award in person and to sit on a panel with the other winners in front of a room of audio industry professionals. And I don't know what else to say aside from it was really fucking cool to be able to do something like that and to receive validation from such big names in the podcasting world. You all know that I love this show. I love making it, and it means a lot to me. The show is my baby. I have built it from the ground up. This is a one-person show, and so I am just so, again, validated. I feel so proud, and I have all of you to thank. All of you who listen, who send in your stories, who subscribe to the Patreon, who interact with me on the socials, who have left a rating or a review, like anyone who has ever come into contact with Susto and you've enjoyed it, even if you've only listened to the show and that's all you've done. I appreciate that so much. I cannot tell you, and I say it every episode how much I appreciate y'all, but truly after something like this, like it's so monumental to me, I'm like, wow, holy shit, this is real. Susto is real. It always has been because you have been here and you have been part of the journey for it. But again, to receive attention and recognition from the people that I did and from the organizations that I did, it's so cool. So I will leave that there because I could ramble about it for who knows how long, too long. But yeah, that's what I was up to this last weekend. A big thank you to the Gotham, to Variety Magazine, and to Wondery, to the nominating committee, and to everybody who was in the room to listen to us. I want to remind you all that the Gustavo the Shy Ghost giveaway is still happening. That is going on until October 31st. I am debating either doing the giveaway, like the live video, either on the 31st or on the 1st of November, just to give everyone every last second that they have to enter before I choose a winner. So again, make sure that you are following on social medias. That's at Susto Podcast for your chance to enter. If you are a patron, you're automatically entered. You don't need to do any of the social media stuff, and it does not count as an extra entry. That is just for you to have a smaller pool, statistically a higher chance to be selected. I think those are the only updates I have for you. Let's go ahead and jump into today's episode, which is about the Chullachaqui. Long before, there were organizations like the IUCN, the Rainforest Alliance, Conservation International, or the Amazon Conservation Association. There was a different sort of protector of the rainforest. There are few places that feel more isolated and mysterious than the Amazon jungle in the north of Peru. When you travel to Iquitos, either to visit one of the lodges or to enjoy a luxury Amazon cruise, keep your eyes out for the Chullachaqui, and don't let him lead you astray. The Chullachaqui is a demon in the jungle whose name comes from the fact that he has two different feet, Chulla meaning dissimilar and Chaqui meaning feet in Quechua. According to legend in Iquitos, this forest imp has the ability to transform himself into any person he chooses in order to deceive any visitors and even those local to the jungle. He often takes the shape of a loved one, friend or family member, driving his unsuspecting victims down false paths, leading them further and deeper into the jungle, and then leaving them there, disoriented and lost. His intention is to enchant them and capture their souls, which will then become part of the legion of spirits that populate the Amazon rainforest, making it vibrate like nothing else in the world. For children, the Chullachaqui will often take the form of another child or playmate. Through his disguise, the evil Chullachaqui will attract the child with deceit, and as with any other victim, lead them deep into the jungle and leave them there, lost and afraid. The only way to discover if the person you are following is actually this jungle demon is to look at his feet. One will be deformed. The Chullachaqui will therefore do his best to keep his feet and his true identity hidden. If he is found out, the Chullachaqui will escape into the jungle. If someone had warned Rebecca about the Chullachaqui, his deceitful tricks, or to simply respect the rainforest, would she be here today? She needed to get away from the constant nagging of her parents, always asking when she was going to start looking for a job, but she knew one of her infamous parent-funded sabbaticals was better than job hunting. She found herself in the middle of the Amazon, about to embark on a life-altering ayahuasca retreat. Day one's itinerary of the week-long program was all about allowing the spiritual tourists to explore the surrounding area substance-free, and to give them a chance to peruse the gift shop and buy Shaman Hank's healing tapes. Rebecca bought her tapes and made her way into the jungle for a hike. Along the way, she thought it a good idea to snack, not knowing exactly how long she'd been away from camp, but certainly feeling hungry. With no one around to judge her, Rebecca felt no shame in dropping her granola bar wrappers to the jungle floor. Except, she wasn't as alone as she thought she was. "Are you going to leave that there?" a voice asked, making Rebecca jump and spin to see Shaman Hank. "Oops," Rebecca exclaimed, feeling a tiny sting of shame, but only enough to pick up the one wrapper she thought Shaman Hank saw her drop. "Follow me," said Shaman Hank. Thinking it must be dinner time or a group activity session, Rebecca obliged. As the sky grew darker and the jungle thicker, Rebecca started to feel unsettled. "Shaman Hank, shouldn't we have been at camp a while ago? Where are we?" Shaman Hank faced Rebecca, only he wasn't Shaman Hank anymore. Thinking it was a trick of the tree's shadows, she took a step closer. This didn't make any sense. She knew she was following him. She spoke to him. How was one of the other campers with her now? "Hey," she shouted. "Did you give us the ayahuasca already? Was it in that welcome tea?" Silence. "Hey, I'm talking to you," she demanded as she stomped to Shaman Hank, or was it the fellow camper? Her stomping came to a halt when she realized she suddenly stood face to face with herself. Disoriented and bewildered, she asked herself, "What is this?" Now she was looking at her mother. "Follow me," her mother mumbled. Now her father. "This way." Shaman Hank again. Come with me. The last thing Rebecca saw was her own face, bearing a vicious, deprived grin. The Chullachaqui is one of the most popular legends in the Peruvian jungle, always referring to a character who takes the form of someone known to their victim in order to lure them deep into the jungle and get them hopelessly lost in the dense vegetation. He is considered a spirit guardian of the forest and instills deep respect in locals and visitors alike. He generally shows himself to those walking alone along the jungle paths, sometimes in a friendly mood and offering jungle gifts. Other times, he is not in such a good mood and may be aggressive. Some say he is a childlike spirit because he likes to kidnap children in order to simply play games with them without doing them any harm. Others say he entrances the children with the intent of destroying and eating them. Many people have had personal experiences and can tell their own stories of meeting the Chullachaqui. Those who have met him say that they were minding their own business when a familiar person showed up, gesturing that the person should follow them. After a time, the familiar person will have disappeared, and they'll realize that they have been led to a tangled place in the jungle. Those who have seen his true form say he wears a large hat, which hides a very wrinkled face, a very large nose, with pointed ears and red eyes. He is just over 3 feet or 1 meter tall, dressed in tattered and dirty rags, and walks stooped over and with an uneven gait. His most striking characteristic, however, are his feet. He has 1 human foot and 1 animal foot, usually that of a deer, a turtle, or a rooster, which is most noted in the footprints he leaves behind. In the end, the best course of action is to treat Amazonia with utmost respect, if not out of ethical qualms, then at least to avoid paranormal retribution. So, when you are exploring the Amazon with your guide, make sure to stick close to your group, and if you do get separated, when your guide finds you, take a look at their feet to make sure it's truly your guide, and not the Chullachaqui, trying to lure you even deeper into the jungle. See, this is why I don't litter, and neither should you. You never know who's watching. If it's not a person, it's some demon who's gonna like trick you and take you and eat your soul and make it part of the ecosystem. And you know what? Maybe you deserve it at that point. I haven't done this in a while, but I took a chance at doing some creative, original writing in the middle of all of that. So the story about Rebecca is based on everything that I read. I was like, okay, because as I was reading all this information about this demon jungle protector, I kind of saw like a movie forming in my head. So I was like, you know what, let me write this out. This would make a great story. So let me know what you all think of that, and I might try and do some more of that original writing. We're going to jump into some of the context around this Chullachaqui. So as I said in the story, this is a creature from Peru. Much like La Llorona, I'm not sure if there can be multiple Chullachaqui or if there's just one. Like, you know, there's one Llorona, but what if he's like lechuzas and there can be many Chullachaqis? Is he just one character, one creature, or are there more of him, you know, like fairies, imps, sprites, you know, those kinds of forest dwelling supernatural beings? In looking through all of these links, and of course you can find all the direct links in the Susto Google Docs on patreon.com/Susto podcast. The links that I used, one was called quotatravel.com, the other one was jungleexperiences.com, the other one was from fieldprojects.com, and lastly there was one from bitchmedia.org, and I'm going to dive into that one a bit. After we look at the other versions of this story. So I found 3. There's one from Brazil, and they call this one the Curupira. And in the short Wikipedia entry, it says the name comes from the Tupi language, meaning covered in blisters, Curupira. According to the cultural legends, this creature has bright red/orange hair and resembles a man or a dwarf. So we have again that element of this is a short creature in its natural state, but its feet are turned backwards. So this is like the other cryptid, that cryptid femme that we talked about, La Ciguanaba, there you go, which is an episode that I did previously if you haven't heard it. So, but still there's that element of the Curupira's feet are not typical to a human's feet. His feet are backwards, and there's, 2 for 2. There we go. This says Curupira lives in the forests of Brazil and uses its backwards feet to create footprints that lead to its starting point, thus making hunters and travelers confused. This is just falling right in line with everything that we just heard about the Chullachaqui, right? This says, besides that, it can also create illusions and produce a sound that is like a high-pitched whistle in order to scare and drive its victims to madness. It is common to portray a Curupira riding a collared peccary, much like another Brazilian creature called caipora. A Curupira will prey on poachers and hunters that take more than they need of the forest. So now we have this main element of protecting the forest, right? This continues. And he also attacks people who hunt animals that were taking care of their offspring. Aw, I like these guys, okay? This continues. There are many different versions of the legend, and so the creature's appearance and habits may vary from each region in Brazil. However, Curupira is considered a nationwide folkloric figure. There you go. And that makes sense because Peru it borders Brazil. It's right next to it. So it makes sense that these creatures are so similar and kind of do the same thing, behave the same way. So again, this is maybe just be like a language difference, a dialect difference, what have you. There's a section here that says, in popular culture, a being called the demon Curupira was featured in several episodes of the 1999-2002 television series Beastmaster, played by Australian actress Emile de Ravin. This Curupira, while still possessing the backwards feet, had the appearance of a young and deceptively sweet-faced blonde girl clad in green. She was a spirit of the forest and very capricious. She protected the animals, particularly tigers, and with a kiss, she could drain humans of their lives, reducing their bodies to mere husks. She was an uneasy ally of the title character, Dar. I've never seen the show Beastmaster. In this first part of this wiki entry, I don't remember reading anything about the Curupira shapeshifting, but in the show Beastmaster, they did say that the Curupira presented itself as a young woman. So maybe they know more than I do. Again, I'm reading just this one little wiki entry about the Curupira, but that could be another characteristic of the Curupira, is that it does shapeshift like the Chullachaqui does. So there's that one. The next one that I found was one from Slavic cultures or Slavic regions. This is like European. This is somewhere else in the world, a different continent. And this one is called the Leshi. The Leshi, also Leshi in Russian, but instead of with a Y, it's an I. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. It says, the Leshi is a tutelary deity of the forests in pagan Slavic mythology, as the spirit rules over the forest and hunting. He may be related to the Slavic god Porowet. There is also a deity named Sviatobor, who is mentioned in the beliefs of the Eastern and Western Slavs as the god of forests and the lord of the Leshis. His functions were identical to those of the god Veles. And Veles is also known as Volos, is a major god of earth, waters, livestock, and the underworld in Slavic paganism. His mythology and powers are similar, though not identical to deities such as Loki and Hermes. Or if you're buying the bag, Hermes. This also says the Leshi is masculine and humanoid in shape, is able to assume any likeness, and can change in size and height. So there's this forest dweller, protector, and shapeshifter. 2 for 2 there. In some accounts, Leshi is described as having a wife, Leshachica, and children. He is known by some to have a propensity to lead travelers astray and abduct children, which he shares with the Chort, or the Black One. A Chort is an anthropomorphic malign spirit or demon in Slavic folk tradition. Chorts are often depicted identically to Christian devils with horns, hooves, and a skinny tail. In Slavic mythology, a singular Chort is sometimes identified as a son of the god Chernobog and the goddess Mara. Again, sorry, I interrupted there. It says the Leshi leads people astray and abducts children like the Chort does. This says, which would lead some to believe he is an evil entity. He is, however, also known to have a more neutral disposition towards humans, dependent on the attitudes and behaviors of an individual person or local population towards the forest. Again, I'm a fan of these guys. You know what? Real cool guys in my book, all right? Leshy could take children who were cursed by their relatives, in particular parents, away to the forest people. Some would therefore describe him as more a temperamental being, like a fairy. I believe the last one that I saw was from the Philippines, and this one is called the Tikabalang, and it is a shape-shifting trickster, so we already have that. It says, in Philippine folklore, a Tikabalang is a bizarre shape-shifting trickster spirit that haunts certain places in the wildlands of the country. It is said to be a tall humanoid creature that dwells in the forests and mountains of the Philippines, and often described as a reverse form of a centaur, where the centaur has the body of a horse and the torso and head of a man. The Tikabalang has the head of a horse and the body of a human. Although descriptions vary, they are generally described as being tall and bony creatures with limbs that tend to be disproportionate to their body. For example, because its legs are so long and skinny, when the creature squats down, its knees are higher than its head. That's creepy to think about. It is usually said to have animal-like feet, usually similar to horse hooves. In some traditions, it is said to have evolved from an aborted human fetus that was held in limbo and sent back to Earth. In some traditions, Tikabalangs can change their shape into that of humans and can also become invisible. Okay, two things. So there's that shape-shifting thing again where it can turn into other humans. But this line about, in some of the tradition, it's said to be an aborted human fetus that was returned to Earth. That sounds like some anti-choice kind of stuff, or quote-unquote pro-life. Don't get an abortion or your baby's going to become a Tikabalang. I'm sure someone has heard that before, and I don't think that's true. This continues. One of the tricks of the Tikabalang is to change its physical form, like we said, into that of a relative friend or someone closely associated to any traveler that it may come across in the wilds. It then appears to the victim in its familiar form, pretending to know the way, deceiving them into being led through the dark woods or along remote mountain paths to a place far from the help of others, exactly like the Chullachaqui. When the time comes for the Tikabalang to reveal itself, the victim may experience the smell of tobacco before the face and the body of their guide blurs as it changes from that of the victim's relative or friend into its own true monstrous form. That's new. That element of the tobacco smell that it emanates as it's transforming. I wonder what that means. Because from what I've understood is that indigenous people use tobacco for different reasons. And just from like a quick Google here, the first thing I see is that it can be offered in prayer, burned in a bowl before growing food, and sprinkled on the bed of an ill person for healing, among many other uses. Traditional tobacco is rarely inhaled into the lungs. But I wonder exactly what this means, that the Tikabalang smells like tobacco as it transforms. Okay, so this says Tikabalangs have many undesirable characteristics that give the good reason for most humans to avoid them. They are known to be tricksters who try and trick travelers, making them lose their way or go round in circles. However, the savvy traveler could ward against Tikabalangs by wearing their shirt inside out. Another way is to ask loudly for permission to pass by a known Tikabalang lair, or by moving silently through the forest so as to not disturb or upset them in any way. That is so interesting. There's quite a bit more on this page about the Tikabalang, but again, they're going to be in the direct links for the Susto Google Docs. But the Brazilian Slavic pages were on Wikipedia. The Philippine Tikabalang was a WordPress page, ztevedevins.wordpress.com, and it's in one of their pages. Wow, so lots of really good insight into the reach of this creature. When I was doing this story, I was like, there's got to be different versions of this anywhere that there is thick wildlife, like a rainforest or jungle, what have you, despite whichever culture it's coming from, because there's always this archetype of a mystical or a supernatural being that's protecting the forest from humans, because as we know, people can be garbage and quite literally leave garbage where it shouldn't be. And so these creatures are taking it upon themselves to protect their lands and ultimately protect the earth. And I appreciate them for that. Okay, so the final article that I wanted to go over was a piece from Bitch Media, and it's called The Heart of Whiteness on Spiritual Tourism and the Colonization of Ayahuasca. This was published in 2019. I want to say I saw a documentary maybe around the same time that this was published about this phenomenon or this movement of spiritual tourism. I have a lot to say about it, but I feel like this piece is great and it really does a good job of explaining it. I will just let it speak for itself. So I'm going to read some pieces from this article. And again, this is by Bani Amor, published in 2019. And it says, some things never change. Each generation tends to revisit old spiritual awakening rituals. With the current wave of radical witches, the self-care movement, and a new era of people of color reclaiming the traditions of their ancestors, all emerging as progressive examples. But what definitely isn't new is white Westerners appropriating spiritual practices from other cultures and commodifying them for their personal enlightenment, and often for their personal gain. One such recent discovery is ayahuasca, a ritual brew native to the Amazon and the latest trendy tonic for white people problems. So in the documentary that I saw, and as this article goes on to do, is to explain that what's happening is people are taking, primarily white people, are going to this area and exploiting this ritual. And while some people may genuinely, earnestly be trying to seek out some soul-searching experience, they tend to exploit the people that are actually from there. And that can happen in a number of different ways. But what also started happening is that some of these retreats or these camps or what have you were being led by people who are not from there, by white people. And it's really messed up. Imagine you have this traditional practice that goes back so many generations and it's sacred to you and your people. And then other people come out of nowhere essentially and decide, I think this is really cool and I think it was good for me. And you know what? I think I'm going to start providing this service to other people and I'm going to make more money off of it than you ever did. That's fucked up. So this continues, only under late capitalism is wellness considered a luxury, something that can be purchased from the great Western mall of New Age nothingness, or Etsy. I love this article. It continues, and like many goods pawned off in a structure that favors settlers, it's been stolen from natives. Exactly what we were just saying. One need only look at how spiritual tourists are rapidly commodifying and consuming ayahuasca, a plant-based drink with hallucinogenic properties that Amazonian healers have used for centuries, to understand how little this market is concerned with the concept of healing and that it ultimately doesn't want to care because there's money to be made. But beyond this, I wonder how whiteness can heal itself from the violence in which it was forged, and if it's possible to keep that violence from spreading wherever white people go, because in the wake of every used and abused wellness trend is an endangered plant, a knockoff shaman, an exploited native community, and an unregulated economy of spiritual hustling in which the sacred is reborn as obscene. So what happens to a people whose traditional healing rituals become solely performed for tourists? What happens to a practice such as ayahuasca ceremonies in the hands of uninvited guests? And in a world where colonization is still in progress, how can we take part in ancestral traditions that aren't ours without taking them apart or taking them over? So I really want us to focus on that last question. How can we take part in ancestral traditions that aren't ours without taking them apart or taking them over? This is a very critical look into colonization, like modern day colonization, because it's not done, and into this one specific practice. So I really wanted to make sure to make mention of this because I thought it was a good opportunity to bring it up and to talk about it. And if you've never seen anything about this or read or heard anything about it, I think it's definitely worth looking more into. Again, if you want to read this, the direct link to it's going to be in the Susto Google Doc, but it is on bitchmedia.org, and the article is called The Heart of Whiteness on Spiritual Tourism and the Colonization of Ayahuasca by Bani Amor. I highly recommend that you read this. It goes in depth and I think it's great. Yeah, and I think it's important. What a fun episode. I always do this. I really enjoyed this one. Yeah, of course you enjoyed it because you made it. You sat here and recorded and edited it. Yeah, but I really did. I feel it was a lot of fun, and I am going to try and ride this high or this like feeling of joy or adrenaline, whatever it is, for as long as I can. I have a lot of seeds planted in my head. I have some really cool collaborations coming up and a few more that I hope to make. So make sure that you stay tuned and you keep listening because I'm going to have some really cool people on the show soon. I'm hoping to keep doing some more cool things with video. So make sure that you're following all the socials. That's at Susto Podcast Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, I really want to actually finally have a Susto movie night. So make sure that you keep your eyes on the Patreon if you're a patron, because the movie night will be live for Best School Friends. I will live stream it with you all so we can watch the movie together in real time, and then I'll edit it, or I'll see what I can do to put it maybe on like YouTube or something afterwards, but it won't be live, so you'll just be watching my reaction with it if you're not a patron. So speaking of patrons, we're going to go ahead and do our credits for this episode and give a huge thank you to the October patrons of Susto: Rachel, Amanda, Ashley, Michael, Emily, and Addie, Marlene, Neressa, Ashes, Jenny, Brenda, Denise, Anna, Desiree, Monica, Jeannie, Cami B, Julie, Lori, Karen, Julianne, Mandy, Angela and Co, Sam, Josette, Victoria, Dee, Eva, Mario, April, Luther, Alejandra, Rachel, Sadie, and Liza. Thank you all so much for your support. It means everything to me. If you haven't seen the most recent Susto mail for this month, for October, the little coffin that I sent out for the Best School Friends, that was so fun. It was so cute. I had the exact number of coffins for the Best School Friends to get them. I'm not going to lie, I was really sad because I wanted one for myself, but I had to, be the bigger ghoul and make sure that all of the Best Girlfriends got their coffins. So I hope you all enjoyed them. Those are really fun to make. For those of you that got just the regular thank you note, I took a shot at doing like a junk journaling style kind of postcard, where if you haven't seen junk journaling, search TikTok junk journaling. I'm going to post some pictures about it as well, because I thought that they came out really cute for my first try, and now I want to keep trying to do that. And I did mention that in a TikTok, my Michael's haul, about doing that. So once more, make sure that you join the Gustavo the Shy Ghost giveaway. If you haven't, follow socials for that. And if you have any of your scary stories that you would like me to share on the show or the socials, it doesn't have to be just a story. It could also be a video, a photo, an audio recording. You can do so by emailing me to sustopodcast@gmail.com. You can send me a DM on any of the socials, or you can write your story in a 5-star review if you're able to do that wherever you're listening. Please do me a big favor and subscribe or follow the show wherever you're listening. Leave a rating or a review wherever you're listening. I feel like more than anything, that helps me out a ton. It pushes me in the algorithm, and it gets Susto in the ears of people that need to hear it. Thank you all so much. I will see you in the next one, and don't be a litter bug. Bye.
Thanks again for listening to Scary Time by Indie Drop-In Network. If you would like to nominate a scary or paranormal podcast to be featured, just send me a tweet at Indie Drop-In. I'd also love to hear if one of our featured podcasts is now your favorite show. Indie Drop-In survives off ad revenue and listener donations. If you would like to contribute, please consider buying me a coffee. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/Indie Drop-In. If you look at the very bottom of the episode description, you will see a link to make it easy. Indie Drop-In also has many other shows you might like. Just go to indiedropin.com. See you next week.